Hey everybody, this is Brandon Valentine.
And this is Don King.
And welcome to another episode of the Mobile Talk Podcast.
And it looks like that Brandon has grown a beard and may be in Paris now. What are we looking at there, Brandon? Audio listeners are going to wonder, what in the world are we talking about here? Folks, we've got a YouTube channel going now, so we're doing both video and audio. And when I first joined Brandon and Josh, what did you have there, Brandon?
Well, it's a little gnome, and you can put pictures behind him, but it's so close to the end of the semester, it's vacation time, so we thought we would celebrate by putting the gnome on for a little bit.
Oh, gotcha. Well, and did you just hold that up in front of your webcam, or were you using what do you call it, a Pivo, iPivo or something?
iPivo,
yeah, the iPivo.
Yeah, can you hold that up just to show people the little camera we're talking about?
Yeah, this is the iPivo. It's the iPivo 2. This is the cheaper version, which is about, I think, 4 or 5 megapixels, but it does good enough for paper and little projects. About $60 on Amazon. Comes with the software is free, and you could take snapshots and record. They have a more expensive version that's $100, but I think that's like a 10 megapixel camera. But pretty convenient. You can just take this off, and it comes with a little case, and this can fold up. It's nice and weighted, and autofocus, continuous. So like it'll automatically focus on you if you change your depth, and works great. You can throw it in your bag, and if you don't have a webcam, and you're wherever you are.
Okay. Well, I think I've seen that work in place of a document camera in some classrooms. Have I not, Brandon? Have we got those deployed?
This is the only one that we actually have right now.
Okay. Because I remember there was some discussion about, the ones we have in our classrooms are, what are they, $800 or something for some of those?
They're much more expensive than that. They're really nice.
Wow.
Yeah, we use Wolf Visions in the classroom right now, and we're running a test to see if we can use Elmos that are significantly cheaper.
Okay, so
but
everything.
This is by far the cheapest solution that's out there that I know of, anyway.
But this one relies on the computer, so you'd have to be computer savvy enough to kind of open the software and use it, which isn't too bad. But the other one is kind of computer independent. So if you didn't need the computer, you can have the little LCD panel and zoom and do all kinds of things with the more expensive one. But this is all I've ever used when I was teaching, and I used it every day, and I could bring it to different classes, and it was just real nice and easy. I could zoom in on some sort of like cell experiment. They have a microscope attachment that you can plug it right, or put it right up to a microscope, and they have a magnifying attachment. So pretty neat line of stuff that they got going.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, we'll go into some depth with those options in another one of our podcasts here. But this week, what we're talking about is what you guys have already referenced here. It's the last full week of classes for us at Pellissippi State and for our sister institution in the Tennessee Board of Regents system. I think everybody's on the same calendar. Final exams next week. So we thought this might be a good time to offer people some hints on, especially with D2L, but maybe some other stuff also, what to do to wrap up a semester in terms of the electronic tools. So why don't you guys take it away? You've got some discussion there.
Okay, well, Josh is in the unfortunate position of being the detail guru and having not dealt with an end of the semester project yet. So we figured we would just kind of talk about the process, and I'm sure he'll have questions because we actually haven't gotten around to talking about that a lot yet.
Yeah, a lot of the tools and, interacting between courses and copying things, I've interacted with some of that, but I haven't yet had to go through the steps to kind of take all the gradebook items and kind of produce the final grade or the final calculated grade or the adjusted grade. So that's one thing I just haven't had because I don't have a class full of students, and I don't have a grade book full of grades that need to be produced. I do know, though, that the gradebook can't be exported to Banner. That's still kind of a manual task that seems to will always be the case, I've heard. At least with just kind of how complex the systems talk to each other. But
Well, and let me throw in there, because I have taught for let me see, RODP, ROCC, Tennessee eCampus, whatever we're calling it this week. There's something in there where you can enter a final grade column, and it does apparently export to their system.
Mm-hmm.
So is there just something different about their software, or without getting really into the depth of it, because we just got a short
Sure. Probably the easiest way to explain it, we do things a bit different with our Banner installation. We have some custom processes that happen above and beyond what Banner normally does, that makes it really hard to integrate with D2L.
Okay.
Yeah, we had actually looked into it a few years ago, and we just kind of all decided that it wasn't going to be a reliable option. And maybe we can look at it again in the future, and it would be. But so far, I think you do your grades in D2L, and then you turn around and copy those into MyPellissippi.
But
Okay.
I think too, we talked about this before, and Banner is able to talk to D2L and send it class list and new courses that are coming. But I think when I say it can talk to D2L, it's not really talking directly, right? It's using a kind of a bridge of sorts with another program. So in order for that original conversation to happen, someone who was really proficient in Banner, really proficient in D2L, and really proficient in this other third-party system, so to make that reverse itself, you're really working into the innards of D2L and the insides of Banner, but also being able to handle all that data that's being brokered by that other system.
So it's a one-way bridge.
At least at the moment, until the information passing over the bridge could be simplified or it appears in a different format.
Or
Okay.
API.
Okay. Well, so what do faculty members need to do to wrap up a semester here? I guess one of the first things that we think about is entering grades.
Mm-hmm.
And since we only figure grades or enter grades once every 4 months or something like that, it's really hard to remember how to do that.
Sure, yeah. And even though faculty will always see the final calculated and final adjusted grade columns in the grade book, students don't see that until you tell the system to release it to them. So that's one of the big things, is just remembering to go in. You can recalculate your final grades. You can make some adjustments if you need to for extra credit or whatever. And then you have to remember to choose the option to release the final grades to the students. Otherwise, they're never going to be able to see it.
Okay. Okay. So that I know there's a setting in there where you can tell it to show students the I forget what it calls it. It's sort of like a preliminary grade all throughout the semester. I guess they can continue to see that, but just to have confirmation that, yep, this is what your final grade's going to be. You got to release those grades.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to release it, and you choose what you want to release. So there are two options. The calculated option, D2L just does the math based on how your grade book is set up, and it displays the number to the students, and that's it. Or if you want a little bit more control over it, where you can add some points here or there or whatever, then you can choose adjusted, where D2L will calculate everything for you, but then you still get the option to tweak those numbers a little bit before you release them to anyone.
Okay, that makes sense. I got to say, I have been using D2L to do my grade figuring for years now. Nice feature, especially for a speech guy. I can do math, but it's not my strong suit, Do you have a sense of how many faculty are using that feature? Is it more and more of us, or?
It's definitely more and more. And I don't know if Josh has noticed this, but usually people would come in to my office and say, I would like to learn course content, or I would like to learn how to use the news tool. And I would get a lot of faculty members come in and say, my students are asking me to use the grades tool. So grades are something that students really like to be able to log in and see 24/7. Is that kind of the same thing you're experiencing?
Yeah, I mean, I think, when a student completes a project or does an assignment, they turn it in and they give it to you however they give it to you, and they could come and ask you, or they could wait for you to return it. But just being able to kind of every week know that there might be a new update on their grade, it kind of just keeps them motivated, or keeps them interested, or at least it gives them a place that's like at least private for them, where they could kind of see and track and get the comments that they're getting. So,
and I don't know if we've talked about it on our podcast or not. Probably not. There's a relatively new D2L app called Pulse that allows students to sign up for notifications for all sorts of things in their class. But one of those is grades. So students really like it because if you post a grade and they have that app and they've chosen to sign up for alerts from your class, anytime you post a new grade or update an existing one, they would get a notification on their phone and they could look at their grade right away.
Yeah.
Okay. And we're getting some network congestion there. On my screen, you guys froze up a couple of times. We'll just see what happens on the recording for anybody watching this.
Maybe we're just really slow right now.
We're talking too fast.
Yeah, just overwhelming the system there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what else might faculty need to do for wrapping up the semester here as far as electronic tools is concerned?
Let's see. After you calculate the grades and show the grades in D2L, obviously you have to enter the grades in the official system, MyPellissippi, banner, report those. And then it's not a requirement, but I think it's always a good idea to export your D2L grades as a spreadsheet, just so you can hang on to it. You can file them away on your H drive. You'll probably never need it, but if you happen to, then you've got a backup that you don't have to log in and dig through.
Okay, so that's just a matter of going into the grade book and clicking export. Do you have to make any choices there?
Yeah, it's pretty clear. I mean, like there's an import and an export. In theory, you know, if you don't like working in the grade book, if you had all your categories and everything set up the way you wanted, and you were comfortable with it, you could export it at the beginning of the semester and enter things in Excel, but then your students wouldn't be seeing it until you imported it back. So, but if you're, I'm a fan of Excel, so depending on what I was doing, like that might be an easy way to just kind of import for one assignment or something. But for most people, just functioning in the spreadsheet that's there, but there is an import export button.
Okay, I will confess that the first couple of years we used D2L, I did exactly that. I exported the gradebook from D2L, did the figuring in Excel, and then imported it back into D2L, each assignment, so that students could see what the outcome was. But the last 3 or 4 years, I take my laptop with me to class. Again, I teach public speaking, so when a student gives a speech, the grade is determined right then. It doesn't do me any good to take it home, go home and think about it. I've seen everything that I need for grading the thing. So I just put the grade straight into the D2L grade book.
That makes sense.
And I've been playing more with the rubrics tool. I know this might be a little off topic, but since you mention it, the rubrics tool is a little bit clunky to set up initially, but if you had individual domains and part of your rating, like suppose you had 3 domains and then a rating from 1 to 4, for each of those boxes you could have the speech that they gave was this or that, or exuded this expectation, but behind that you could have a specific feedback element that's associated with that box. So if you had that rubric open in front of you and you were grading them for the speech they were giving, and you just quickly checked the boxes that applied for their speech, the feedback that's behind actually goes to the grade book. And so the student thinks that you've given them all this feedback and are, but really it's just a handful of canned answers. That's if you the more domains, the more opportunity for feedback. Like, I liked how fast you spoke, or your clarity was good, and you can have all these comments that are all ready, and all you do is click through on the rubric. The grade is published, as well as just a list of feedback goes straight to the gradebook as well.
And can you go in and edit some of the feedback if you want to customize it a little bit for each person?
So before you send it to the gradebook, it puts the feedback in the box.
Okay.
And so you can move it around or erase something that you didn't want. But same for Dropbox. That's kind of where I discovered it. It was just a Dropbox, and so you could grade a paper that way. Boom, boom, boom. You've produced the score, you produced the comments, and then you could add your own personalized feedback. But it could be great for doing something like you just described.
Okay, I think we're going to need to do a special episode just on the rubric thing here, because I'm learning a lot here. Quick question before we move from that, though, because we're running a bit long today. I understand about checking off the rubric. Can you also add comments? Like if you want to give individual comments in addition to the, and let's face it, 80-85% of what happens on an English paper, on a speech, it's stuff that we're saying over and over. So that this is, in a way, it's customized to the student, and yet we can have those canned responses. I'm just wondering if I can extend that a bit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so, well, for our example of the Dropbox item, suppose you were looking for 3 or 4 things that represented the different domains. You go to grade it, it opens up the rubric, you check the boxes, and it automatically calculates the score based on the boxes that you picked. It puts those into the comments box that we're accustomed to in Dropbox, and that isn't yet published. It also puts the score and the comments just where you would normally do it, and you could go ahead and edit all the comments, but it just puts them in a row based upon what you clicked. And so from there, you could type in whatever comments you want, and that's what gets associated with the Dropbox and eventually the grade item.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So is there anything else that we really need to mention? Because, this is one of those timely topics. It's not going to do any good for us to come back 2 weeks after the end of the semester and say, here's what you should have done. Is there anything else?
Some subjects, faculty are required to keep, say, papers for 2 to 3 years afterwards. Obviously, D2L is going to be around for that long, and you could leave your papers there. Some people really like to just download an archive of all of the Dropbox submissions for, some of the essays or things like that. So that's a good idea. You can do it all at once for each assignment anyway, and then bundle those together. Let's see. I made a little list here. If you happen to have anyone in your class that has an incomplete, there is not a way for instructors to mark a student as incomplete. So they would lose access to D2L right after the end of the semester. But if you have someone that you would like to let stay in the class until they finish their work, if you'll just let somebody in ETS know, we will take care of it. Probably Josh. He'll probably be doing a lot of that. Let us know, and we will change the student's role to a student with incomplete, and that means they can access the course even after no one else can.
Okay.
And probably, part of the end of your course is kind of thinking about what you wanted to change. As you are working through a semester and you go through some content or you find a mistake, maybe you fix it or upgrade it. But you could always kind of create modules that are a draft and start editing in the current course, and the students can't see it if it's a draft.
That's a good idea.
If in case you don't feel comfortable or confident to use like a sandbox course where you can kind of test things, or a master course, but you could create modules in draft form, update them as you go near the end of the semester. The students aren't seeing the changes, because you're hiding it from them, and you could be editing things that they don't need for final exams. And then you're basically kind of editing, preparing for the next semester, and then you get your new course and you can import everything in, or maybe you're moving on to another college. You could export your whole D2L course to a zip file and take it to whatever management system they have at your next school.
Yep.
Okay.
And I guess a quick note about master courses: if you decide at the end of the semester that you've made some pretty significant changes to your current course and you want to copy that into the master course so you can use it again in the future, make sure to clear out your master course before you do that. Otherwise, you have 2 copies of everything. So go through each and every tool, delete everything in the current master course, and then use the copy components tool to copy all of your current semester's work into it.
Okay, well, good advice, guys. As I said, we're kind of running long, so we probably ought to wrap up for this session. But want to remind everybody that we do continue with an audio version of this podcast. We now have a YouTube channel, which we'll figure out what the easy URL for that is and post it on our blog. Speaking of the blog, I would recommend everybody to go find that. That's kind of the central information hub for everything that we do in the Mobile Fellows. You can find that at blogs.pstcc.edu/mobilefellows. You can drop an email to me. That's dking, D-K-I-N-G, @pstcc.edu. You can also follow us on Twitter at @PS_mobs. Hope you'll join us again for Mobile Talk. Hope this has been worth your while this week, and we look forward to seeing you again.
Bye-bye.